Hey everyone, and welcome back to Oceanium Gaming. Today I have a video that was highly requested by many of you in my last loadout guide video, so if you haven't seen my first loadout guide, be sure to check that out. But in today's video, I'll be introducing the ideal trapper build and going into detail on everything that makes up this build. Now, some points to this build is that it will cater to a very specific playstyle and will be only effective with proper coordination with your team. Well anyways, let's get into today's video. Starting off today's trapper video, we will be discussing my suggestion for your primary weapon. While of course with this trapper build you can utilize any primary you want, I would highly recommend the full-size crossbow. It's a really fun weapon to use in general and works very well paired with this trapper build. However, I have occasionally been using the Lebel 1886 with conversion dual wield instead of a crossbow. So it's up to you with your primary weapon choice. But let's speak a little more about the crossbow. It is a very powerful and effective medium to close range weapon. Not only will this particular crossbow keep your position unknown to enemies, it will also apply a full bleeding effect when you hit people at any range with this weapon, which will give you the opportunity to push and finish off an enemy. You may even get the kill with bleed damage alone. Now, moving on to the secondary I recommend for this trapper build, we have the conversion uppercut. The uppercut can be effective at medium to long range, so I feel it strongly balances out the short range playstyle of the crossbows, which in turn will round out this loadout to be effective at almost every range. My recommendation for the uppercut is based solely on the idea of balancing a loadout between close range and long range effectiveness. You could essentially use any medium slot rifle as your secondary in conjunction with the full-size crossbow. Some medium slot weapons I'd suggest are the Mosin Obrez or any of the medium-sized weapons with scopes on them. I still feel the uppercut is the ideal secondary to pair with the crossbow, as it requires less work to unlock when compared to something like the Mosin Obrez. If you have a stronger preference for the Caldwell packs, you could definitely use that instead. Just as my personal preference, I tend to prefer the uppercut with the crossbow. Just a side note, if you are enjoying today's video and want to make me eternally happy, I would really appreciate you hitting that like and subscribe button. Anyways, let's move on to the highlight of today's video, and the part that makes this a true trapper build. In this section, I will be discussing the tools, consumables, and the ideal strategies to maximize the effectiveness of your traps and their placements. Of course, with any build, I always recommend bringing the med kit and a knife. I prefer the heavy knife, but it's up to you on what to bring. Something I discovered about the heavy knife that I feel not many people know is that a light swing with the heavy knife is quieter when compared to a heavy swing of the regular knife. And more recently, it seems like the developers have increased the grunt hordes to spawn in groups of 4 in many areas. This really makes the heavy knife an optimal choice over the normal knife because of how much less stamina it uses. As far as the traps go, I believe the concertina trip mines and poison trip mines are the ideal tools to bring. I haven't seen many utilize this equipment effectively, so let me give you some ideas on how you should use and place these traps properly. The concertina and poison trip mines can be paired and placed right next to each other to maximize the damage output of each. Ideally, you want to place 3 traps on top of one another, consisting of either 2 poison and 1 concertina, or 2 concertina and 1 poison. When someone hits this many traps, 9 times out of 10 it will kill them. The reason placing concertinas with poison mines seems to work is because the concertina will slow down the players and keep them in the poison cloud for longer, which will make the poison more effective. Another aspect that will determine your success with this trapper build is the location where you decide to place your traps. Oftentimes, I will see traps placed in very obvious locations, which will allow people to disarm or shoot the traps. An obvious location is right behind boss layer doors or at other common points of entry. Now, generally in boss layers, you don't want to be placing bear traps under your trip mines. While this is effective if someone manages to hit your trap, the red bear trap will make the aggressors notice that you place traps there. The bear trap is very bright on the floor compared to the wires of your trip mines, so that's something to keep in mind. Some less obvious areas to place traps is around corners and at the top of stairs, as well as in water locations, either at extractions or around any of the boss layers that feature water. One of my favorite locations to place traps that people seem to hit every single time is at the Windy Run compound. In this outside building, I opt to only place traps at the top of the stairs inside. I have gotten many kills placing traps here. Something you want to start thinking about is playing mind games with your enemies. In this building, I do not place any traps downstairs or behind doors to give hunters a false sense of security. Oftentimes, people will push in here and notice that there aren't any traps and will run upstairs and hit the traps I placed there. In order for your traps to become most effective, you need to start thinking about how the other hunters will react to your trap placement. If you place a trap in a bad location and allow them to easily spot your traps, they will be consciously looking for the other places you place traps, essentially rendering them useless. Another strategy you can do with these traps that is pretty fun but time consuming is to trap up the extraction you think the bounty carriers will go to, and try to do some mind games to encourage them to go towards your trapped up extraction. And if you can time it just right, you will be able to attack the bounty carriers while they are extracting and hitting your concertina and poison mines, which will ultimately give you the advantage pushing on bounty carriers. Now moving on to the consumables I suggest bringing, we have 2 vitality shots, 1 poison bomb, and 1 antidote shot. Now the reason I suggest the antidote shot is because it will give you a full hour of poison immunity. This not only helps with the spider boss, which will reduce overall damage received, it will also allow you to go through your own poison bombs without feeling any effect. The poison bomb will allow you to seal off an area where players can't push in. This means that those players will likely think that you can't push to them, so they may let their guard down, when in reality you can just push out through a poison bomb due to your use of the antidote shot, making the poison bomb a perfect complement to this trapper build. It's also worth mentioning that a poison bomb does a decent amount of damage to the butcher boss. In the next part of today's build, I feel I need to discuss the traits you should bring and prioritize for a trapper build. The first trait you should prioritize will of course be the frontiersman trait. Bringing frontiersman will give you access to more trip mines, which will allow you to have 3 traps for the concertina and 3 for the poison, not to mention the extra med kit you will get from this trait. The next trait I recommend is the pack mule trait, which pairs very well with frontiersman. Pack mule will allow you to get up to 2 tools or consumables each time you loot a resupply box or hunter. So this trait is a must-have if you loot resupply wagons often. If you do decide to bring crossbows, next I would recommend the bolt thrower trait, as it allows you to reload your crossbow much faster. Now in terms of the secondary traits to prioritize for this build, I would highly recommend Greyhound and Gator Legs. With any build, these 2 traits are key in maximizing your movement speed while allowing you to go through swampy areas with ease. With traps, you will be wanting to rotate often and trying to be as quick as possible moving between compounds, as getting to the boss layer should be your main priority. Being able to trap up a boss layer with concertina trip mines, poison trip mines, and bear traps will give you a huge advantage when other hunters show up. Since you are bringing Greyhound and Gator Legs, it will also give you the opportunity to rotate much faster in PvP situations, which is ultimately the key to winning PvP fights. So to sum up, the order in which to prioritize your traits for this trapper build is as follows. Frontiersman and Pack Mule should be your first traits equipped, and Bolt Thrower if you chose the crossbow, followed by the less important but still extremely effective Greyhound and Gator Legs traits. For the last portion of today's build guide, I will be going over the pros and cons to this trapper build. For the pros of this loadout, it is extremely versatile, as in you can bring pretty much any primary and secondary you want, while not taking away from the trapping experience. It is great for increasing your movement in PvP situations, as well as traversing between compounds, and of course the traps allow for great versatility from the sheer number of traps at your disposal with the Frontiersman and Pack Mule traits equipped. With the consumables, you will be able to have immunity from poison damage with the antidote shot, while having the poison bomb to act as a trap that you can still go through due to the aforementioned antidote shot. Next up, let's discuss the cons to this loadout. I feel there are 2 major cons to this loadout build, and firstly we have the cost of bringing in the traps. While they aren't too expensive by themselves, they really seem to add up, especially if you choose to bring a more expensive primary and secondary weapon. And for the second con to this build, I would say that the poison trip mines are really difficult to unlock, and even if you are coordinated with a teammate, it will take you until around level 60 to unlock them. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this trapper build guide, and if you did, be sure to like the video. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. I plan on doing some more in-depth guides as well as more loadout guides in the future, so be sure to look out for that. In the meantime, I have tons of gameplay videos for you to check out, and you can always watch my older guide videos. All links will be down in the description, and if you guys have any suggestions for videos you want to see, be sure to leave it down in the comments, or leave it in the suggestions area on my Discord server. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all are having a great day, and I will catch you guys in the next one.